Well, welcome back, friends. We haven't seen you in a while. This is Paul Thompson and Steve Autrey, Huntersville United Methodist Church. And what church do you go to? Which church?
I just found out I'm at Denver United Methodist Church.
How about that?
Yeah, I got a letter in the mail telling me that.
that you have been and will be.
Yeah, right.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I'm sure the people of Denver are delighted to hear that.
Some of them.
I've got bad news for the people at Huntersville.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm going back.
Just can't get rid of you, can
They just come like just bad money. I just keep showing up. But
We're
we're so glad to be back with you. Today is Wednesday, and we're excited to kind of be back with you for the first time since Easter.
Wednesday, April 19th. Yeah, how was Easter over at Huntersville?
You know, truly, when I think about the whole experience from Maundy Thursday and Good Friday and then Easter sunrise service and then a Easter celebration, it was really a wonderful time. And I have so many people I should thank, including Charles Morrow, who put together what I think was a wonderfully creative and wonderfully just a wonderful service on Maundy Thursday that included a meal. I mean, a sure enough meal with communion, foot washing. It was a wonderful time. Of course, Good Friday was, I can't imagine. I think more people should be coming on Good Friday.
What was interesting to me is the way the weather kept up with the liturgy of the church, because bad weather came in Thursday night, and it was cold, rainy, and miserable Good Friday and Holy Saturday.
Yeah,
it's almost as if the creation was saying, this is the way the story should be told.
We had anticipated being outside for Good Friday. We'd anticipated being outside on Sunday morning for the sunrise, and no, Mother Nature did not allow that, so it was not good. But in terms of kind of messages, what message did you leave with the people of Denver on Easter Sunday?
What did I say? No, this idea that Jesus shows up in the resurrection, and that which would oppose him. I mean, you've got this symbol of the powers and principalities that had seemed to have won in the Roman guards in Matthew's gospel, and they become as dead men in the presence of the angel, whereas the one who was supposed to be dead becomes one who is alive. So it's kind of that inversion of expectations, and all of a sudden the bad guys don't win.
Yeah.
Right? And that Jesus is set loose on the world in his resurrected self, and that changes all of history, changes our narrative, changes our story. One of the things I was wondering about and pondering leading up to Easter is, could you imagine a world without resurrection? A world where you have no hope that there's something beyond what we see and know. We've lived with the resurrection for 2,000 years, and whether even those who I would say are not believers are impacted by the resurrection.
Well, you know, for centuries and centuries and centuries, the prevalent thought, both in Judaism and in many other religions, is that you lived on through your progeny. You didn't really live, but that was why it was so important, especially in the Old Testament. They always wanted to have a son so that the name and I guess the genes and the DNA would carry on. And to think about now that we have a hope beyond that.
Well, and for us here, I think was kind of a hard week, because we said goodbye to two very faithful members. Mr. Buzz Tanner's service was on Holy Thursday, or on Maundy Thursday, and then 1 week later we said goodbye to Ann Cloninger with her funeral. And both Buzz and Tanner, both Buzz and Ann are just incredible people, extremely faithful to this church, great examples of living out their faith, and to know that that's not the end.
Right.
To be able to say
that final word.
That death, in the words of Paul, death's victory. Death, where's your victory? Death, where's your sting? Mm-hmm. That brought home a different resonance for this congregation, given the fact that we said goodbye to those two people. And then the Tuesday after Easter, I met with our Grief Share group. We have, and I'm so grateful. That's a wonderful ministry that we offer here that such good leaders, but we do a good job of ministering to people in the community who are dealing with death in a very real way. It's not just a philosophical way. Death has been a part of their life, and they are struggling with how to move on and how to appropriately remember, but also how to live. And so I was, that on the heels of the resurrection, sitting down with them and talking to them, and we talked through questions of heaven, we talked through questions of what's next, how does this work, all those things. It's very apt for the Easter season.
Yeah, so Huntersville as a congregation, we had lost from the beginning of January, well, even into the last quarter of last year, some folks who just, they're the ones you feel like are holding the church up. They're just the pillar folks of the church. And so walking through this time of Lent and preparation and then coming to Easter, we actually had a lunch for folks who had been grieving. The staff did an awesome job of bringing that together and bringing some folks together who certainly, in the midst of that grief. So, yeah, I think there's this message in Easter that we needed to hear, that death doesn't get the final word.
Right. And that's, we live in a world that seemingly is dominated by death. I know you and Tammy went up to her home state of Kentucky, which had just experienced 2 mass shootings.
Right.
Every time we open a news feed, something horrible's happening. There's news of a young man who stopped by was looking for his brother, knocked on the wrong door, and the homeowner shot him. Mm-hmm. News of a young lady and some friends who were trying to find a house for a get-together, went up the wrong driveway, and the homeowner shot them. Mm-hmm. Those things are just, every time you look at something, it seems that the powers of darkness are winning. And so it's so important for us to remember that, no, that may be what leads on the news feeds, but that's not the reality of the world we live in because of what Christ did, and that the resurrection is set loose. And when you come to the end of that, I love the image when Jesus says, "Do not doubt, only believe." And that was this past week with Thomas, right? For me anyway, that's what I preached on. The idea that you, like most senior pastors, took the Sunday off, right? Only the faithful,
I didn't think
the good,
there was any senior pastor
just,
who preached the Sunday after Easter.
Only me, because I'm special. No, but at the end of it, I think about that in the resurrection narratives. Every one of them has an element of doubt. You have Thomas, who is like, unless I see him, unless I touch him, unless I can put my finger in my hand in his side, which is kind of gross, Thomas. And then in Matthew's gospel, at the ascension, they're on the mountain. It says some bowed down and worshipped him, but others doubted.
That's where I went on Easter Sunday morning. I think I offended some folks. I know you'll find that hard to believe, because I told them, "Go, get out of here." Yeah. Because the beautiful connection between the Easter story in Matthew's gospel and this passage that we typically refer to as the Great Commission is Jesus says, "Go 3 times."
There's a great term that Justo Gonzalez. I don't know if you've ever read anything by him.
I have.
You have. I didn't think you did much
South
scholarship.
American? Yeah, well.
But he has this phrase called they were ankle gazers, like staring at and he's like, and most of us haven't stopped gazing up after Jesus instead of getting about the work of following Jesus and being who Jesus needs us to be in this world.
Yeah, that amazing connection between the Easter story. There's this word that we often take so for granted in English. It's therefore. When something significant happens and there's something to follow, there is the significance of Easter. Okay, therefore, what does that mean? Yeah. And for us, according to Matthew, we go into Galilee. We go to those places where ministry is done. We go to those places where the practice of ministry is often difficult, painful, but we go and expect fully to meet Jesus there, because Jesus says, "I go before you into Galilee."
Which is, Matthew sets that up in that gospel passage. The women at the tomb are told by the angel, "Go," and then they're obedient, and it is in their going
In the going.
that they meet Jesus. And so many times we end up more like the disciples. We want to shut our church doors, hunker down, and maybe Jesus will show up, maybe he won't.
Yeah.
But we hide behind our doors, and Jesus is always calling us to get out there and go and do.
I sometimes worry that we have so many worship services and we have so many different times of in-gathering. When do we really do the going out? And of course, I'm grateful to be a part of a church that really does take that seriously, but I always ponder, that connection. Jesus never says, hey, let's go create a worshiping atmosphere. Let's go create a space where we can gather every Sunday. He really does insist that we go out into the world, into the Galilees.
Well, I have to say, most people take that very seriously the Sunday after Easter.
Yeah, they go to the lake, go to the beach,
go somewhere.
Go to Florida, go to Disney.
Well, you went,
Yeah,
so thanks.
that's right.
You modeled that.
Yeah, I did. I modeled that going to Kentucky. So,
But it is a fascinating thing the way that these few days, and I think about just a few days that we mark as Holy Week. Out of all the days in human history, these are the days that change everything.
Well, and we often forget that Easter's not a day. Easter's a season, but even more than a season, Easter's a way of life.
Right.
It's a recognition that we are forever changed because of what happened that Easter day. If we take it seriously and if we remember the significance of it, there is a great therefore in that one.
Well, therefore, we're out of time.
Yeah.
So we'll
How
be
about
back
that?
tomorrow.
We'll look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.